Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to the Watchmaker, so let's continue. We really didn't need to leave the game on the menu there. So we had yet another awkward boss battle against the bad guy who seems to be the bad guy. I mean, he doesn't seem like he's even going to bother to try and manipulate the Watchmaker in some way to make him think, oh, maybe Thomas, the chatty voice, is the bad guy, or that there's been some misleading going on, when almost certainly there has been some level of misleading. And with the roughness of just how everything is written, I wouldn't be surprised if that point has just already been kind of dealt with in the minds of the writers. Alright, I guess I'm jumping up there. Here we have our last newspaper and an achievement for getting the last newspaper. And I assume we will get the last two letters. Almost certainly we're not getting all four of the papyruses. Maybe we will. But we're definitely not getting all of the watches. And this is definitely not a game. The tower explodes, Watchmaker Alexander and his wife missing. So the explosion was right in the middle of them trying to do the transmutation or transference of Alexander's wife, Alice, into either a new body or something to replace a body. Let's see. So apparently it exploded, and man, there's a lot of story here. You can definitely feel how instead of having the ridiculous dialogue that just plays backwards and forwards and randomly spouts off conversations and then gets cut off for other conversations, it would have made more sense to have the story be told to you as far as the events in some form of memories or flashbacks of the main character. He could easily have told you all the events here instead of all of the things written in those texts, instead of having that be a read-only item that scrolls by too fast for you to actually be able to read it. Here's letter number 5. No blood on this one this time.
Thomas has seen me in very bad shape today. He came and gave me a potion to help me with my problem. He's very kind. He's even willing to investigate and wants to meet you. He says your clock is the greatest creation of the century, that it could help progress in ways you haven't even imagined, and wishes to meet its creator. I know you finished your work a few days ago, and that you are very happy and need to rest. So much work and effort must have been worth it. For me, the sickness is progressing slowly, and I'm starting to feel I cannot stop it anymore. Soon I will have to accept my end. I hope we can share together the time I have left.
Increasingly, there's just like less and less accuracy in the voice acting compared to the writing of the letters, which I don't know why you would bother to do that. Why not either rewrite the letters so that they are accurate, or make the voice actor hit her lines correctly. And here we've got a boss fight, so I'm gonna just go ahead and rewind right now and use that key, and then checkpoint ourselves back to the younger version. We just cutscene our way directly into it because they don't have a way for us to get through the ghost.
Aurelius! Beings like you eventually pay for their deeds. Not even God can forgive you. You are trash.
You are the trash here. You are the hopeless case who used Thomas.
Wow, this
and
voice
now I'm
acting
using you. And
is
I've
awful.
used you your entire life. For hundreds of years.
This will end now.
I have the power!
Ah!
I loved you like a father, and now you are part of the past. Time belongs to me now.
Like, they never wrote Thomas as anything that this would be unsuspected and fairly obvious.
What have you done, Thomas?
Like, why would you even care? At a certain level, you'd just be like, "All right, Thomas, you can have the tower."
This doesn't have to end like this.
Like, I don't care. Let me just help my wife, who they didn't bother to animate any of that. And see, that seems fairly straightforward.
I care about you. You're not like this, I'm sure.
Yes, I am. Only darkness lies within my heart.
So this thing is gonna fire.
You're silent. Give
Okay.
it up yet?
So, like, what are we supposed to do?
My intelligence is unmatched.
Like, I don't get it.
You are nothing more than another tool for me.
Like, completely confused as to what I'm supposed to be doing.
You still are. Fool.
Like, the switch is not activating anything.
I always told you time did not exist. Now, I'm its master.
Need 3 power cells to use your time power.
Give up, Watchmaker. You can't beat me.
So am I supposed to be ripping off his arm? Is that the idea? The metallic arm?
You must understand you are an inferior being. You and Aurelius. Losers.
Alright, so I'm gonna just run here and hope that this is...
Everything had ended. This is unnecessary.
Okay. Like,
Pathetic. Your watch has disgusted me.
it's just a whole collection.
Take this. You and your useless watches.
Come on. Like, that's like right there. So if it's not pulling
You are naive.
his... If it's not pulling his metal arm, is it perhaps pulling the other arm?
Power has blinded you, Thomas.
Alright, let's have a look around.
This was the plan all along. Fool.
Power has blinded you, Thomas.
Take this. You and your useless watches.
Like, we'll hit the button.
Everything had ended. This is unnecessary.
Yeah, there's nothing like grab over here.
No one never cared for me.
I care about you. You're not like this, I'm sure.
Yes, I am. Only darkness lies within my
Like,
heart.
I'm standing here.
I always told you time did not exist. Now I'm its master. You don't know his power. You are naive.
Let's see. Okay. So what are the other options that we could potentially deal with?
I'm shocked. This doesn't have to end like this.
Like previously, it was getting an explosion. So, is there possibly
You must understand you are an inferior being. You
like it just kind of always hits him, and then like I don't think I'm supposed to blow up a second one on his arm.
Watchmaker, you can't beat me.
Maybe I am.
You're silent. Giving up yet?
Let's see.
My intelligence is unmatched. Your watch has disgusted me.
Come on.
You are nothing more than another tool for me.
Once again, this game has just managed to give a really
My intelligence is
poor example. Okay, we finally figured out what we're supposed to be doing. We were supposed to hit this, and after it's been charged up. There we go. And see, that seems like that probably hits him no matter what. Now, is this charged up? No. Okay, so we need to
I'm shocked.
stand
Doesn't have to end like this.
at that point. So you kind of have to just walk into this and be roughly at the right angle while he cycles through loops, but at least in this case, they are giving you enough pickups so that you can actually survive in this battle without being under an incredible timing. Is that charged up, or I don't think. Oh, it is charged up. Good. And then hit and smack.
I care about you. You're not like this, I'm sure.
Yes, I am. Only darkness lies within my heart.
We stopped getting the subtitles on this stuff, but whatever. It is just the same dialogue looping over and over again.
I always told you time did not exist. Now I'm its
Same bad lines of dialogue when you really don't need that. seems like you kind of have to. Wow. Kind of have to be.
Watchmaker, you can't beat me.
And see, I imagine if you get smashed with a hand, you probably do just die at that point. So. Man, you really do have to be leading that attack fairly fast.
Everything has ended. This is unnecessary.
Alright, so I'm gonna stand right about here. And stand about
Power
this
has blinded
distance.
you, Thomas.
I kind of would have liked the idea if this was more of a world where the whispers themselves were, like, the world itself had this corrupting effect and there was just timing issues. Time itself drove people crazy. There was a Star Trek episode like that. Next Generation episode where seemingly time itself drove people crazy.
Pathetic. Your watch has disgusted me.
I'm not sure if I'm actually
No one never
going through and making progress here, or if this is
You're not
just
like this,
one of
I'm
these
sure.
fights where there takes 4 or 5 different hits.
within my heart.
So I want to just be slightly to the left.
Give up, Watchmaker. You can't beat me.
When you look behind yourself, it doesn't actually work.
You're silent. Given up yet? I always told
Okay.
you time did not exist. Now I'm its master.
Did it hit at that time? Maybe.
You must understand you are an inferior being. You and Aurelius. Losers. This was the plan all along. Fool!
So, yeah, I'm still not sure if I'm making progress or if I'm just cycling between 2 different steps. Do I want to hit him and rip off his arm, or do I want to hit him in the
Everything had ended.
magical side?
Unnecessary.
Because those are,
This. You
like,
are no
it looks like you'd hit the magnetic side with the metal arm. It doesn't look like the goal here is to hit the magical side.
My intelligence is unmatched.
I'm shocked. This doesn't have to end like this.
This is just really repetitive. Okay, this is charged. We got it.
Power has blinded you, Thomas.
I am gonna
You are an inferior being.
hit this,
And Aurelius.
and now he's down. Step on this.
No, the power.
So it didn't have anything to do with at all with the magnetic idea. It was instead just
Alice,
overfilling him with
my sweet
energy, and
We went home.
they've got her on this like stiff
Time does not exist
hoop
among us anymore.
dress that makes her leaning forward.
I fought for decades your own battles. I can't do it anymore.
You're exhausted. We'll calmly discuss this back home.
Yes, I am. But you were wrong. That house is no longer my home. I decided to leave you centuries ago. Don't you remember?
Yeah, I mean, we saw her as a ghost before.
That clock. That was your life. You
So
were
how can she be
here
alive
the day
now?
of our wedding. It
Unless
was marvelous.
this happens in a different time frame than the previous levels,
Left my friends,
which
my
they didn't make
family.
that clear if
You
that was the
never
case.
appreciated me. Now it's too late. I just want to rest.
But Alice,
Quite the speech there.
I don't know what to say.
Don't say anything. My soul has been freed thanks to you. And I am really grateful, my dear Alex. But my time has come. Goodbye, Alexander. I always loved you.
Not a good ending by any means.
No, Alice! No!
I get an achievement for beating that. It looks like there's a door here that might very well just absorb. And there's no way to save, so I think you have either a good ending, which would be to reject the power and go to the door. Here, actually, let's see if we can just save here. Probably not. Or the bad ending, which is to take the power. So either take the power or go through the door. Kind of don't feel like missing out on the good ending. This seems all very obvious and blatant. And yeah, I don't know how good of an ending there really is going to be. An invisible wall stopping you from going backwards in the door. At this point, no return, are you sure? No. Well, if that's a point of no return, then let's see what this is. Press Y button. No. Oops, accidentally took the bad ending. Well, we shall see if we can load back into the game. Terrible cutscenes, unfinished cutscenes, terrible writing, pretty bad platforming, very linear 3D platforming for what it is. Not anywhere enough character development to have like the sprite fairy be the bad guy at the very end, and then have them have these on and off relationship fights that really mattered nothing. Then we get credits, so let's see how many people worked on this game. Well, the numbers are low by the looks of it. One programmer who wasn't good enough to get the job done. A creative director / lead artist who really messed up. A producer and a lead programmer who really messed up. And then you have about 5 3D modelers and 5 animators, 2 concept artists, 2 writers who messed up. A music composer, I can't say I hated the music, but I certainly can say it did not play well in the engine. Sound designers messed up because there definitely were sound effects not playing. Interface artists, some problems there. Voice acting, immediately you would have cut the voice acting to save budget here. Immediately, if you had turned this into a first-person perspective game and dropped the time mechanic as a mechanic that you had this timer forcing you to rush through a game that's obviously way too short in the first place, that would have helped. You could have dropped the energy mechanic easily too. You can see how it really came down to the time freezing mechanic as more of a tech demo that really doesn't even show their ability to program time freezing very well. and the rewind mechanic in the same way, not a very effective implementation of this. And almost certainly, like, this has been done before with the Prince of Persia Sands of Time series, way better. I'm sure there's been some games even before the Prince of Persia Sands of Time series where you could rewind time and slow down time and pause time. To get back to the writing, the whole story really just feels like a confession in the form of video games, where I imagine all of these people who made these games probably did neglect their significant others. I doubt any of them actually died, but that's certainly the case, that it could have happened. You can't inherently blame Unreal Engine 4 for any of this, although none of those other middleware logos are recognizable to me. But yeah. At a certain point, had this come out a few years later, this would have almost certainly been just a one-level demo game that was sold as a prologue to a much bigger adventure, and I could definitely have seen them try and get more publishing and funding, which is really what this needed. In fact, the most successful part of this game is this menu that crashes. The ending there is that I assume he just stays in his tower forever and time never moves forward for him. Let's see, since we checkpointed, where that checkpoint in the continue would really take us. It takes us, press and hold left trigger, takes us back to the very beginning of the game. And here you can see a mirror. That mirror technology was never done again. And here we can get a papyrus. But we missed an entire papyrus, so, like, wow, they literally just want you to play the whole game a second time. And almost certainly you would have gotten your final letter there. So, is there even a second where you could justify playing this game a second time? It's not super long, sure, but it's also not good. Yeah. Had all of the budget been just focused on this first level as a demo, then the game probably would have never gotten a second demo. Sure. Or any more content. I'll grant you that. I feel like most of this puzzle has already just been solved. But on that level, you would then have the ability, see, yeah, you would have the ability to put this out, put the feelers out, and say, hey, is this a game that people are interested in? And you probably would have gotten the response that, no, actually, it's not a game people are interested in, so people should not bother to work on it anymore. And a game like this very possibly did lead to the continued employment or future employment of several of the programmers, but also very possibly it didn't do any of that, and all of the people who worked on this project didn't go anywhere with their career. And as a resume builder, wouldn't call this particularly great. And we never really were encouraged to do things like this in any of the other levels, where that's probably a great way you could have fleshed out a level is to have had some tighter pathways where you would have to be fairly careful about accidentally falling off the edge. Let's see. I just got another achievement. So, more than likely that was an achievement for getting some of the watches. Some percentage of the watches. And going out of the way. But at the core of this, you really have to blame the producer and the director. Their efforts often are hidden and harder to distinguish compared to, say, a game that just has bad graphics, and you could say, well, that's clearly on the animator that failed to make the game look good. Often that is the director and producer's fault also, because they're in charge of the budget and the time schedules. But when you have an entire game full of concepts that are half done, when every aspect is poor, that stops being an individual employee's issue as much as that becomes a production issue in general. Yeah, I'm not sure how much game is really like in this, because it feels to me like in the New Game Plus nearly everything is just reset. Like no, I mean nearly nothing is reset. And then you have this weird green spring, which doesn't seem like there's anything you can do with the green spring. And that was a weird visual aspect. Yeah, if it was really just wandering around this first half of this level, that would be one thing. But then you also have to remember, after you get past a certain point in this first level, you're into the smoke blowing monsters. I guess at that point that was somewhere. It would be fairly difficult to remember which way is which with anything around here. Also, there could be collectibles all throughout this entire level, and without a collectible guide, odds are extremely low you'd be able to find everything. You can definitely feel that there's a level of comfort in jumping and potentially falling to your death now that I didn't have with these wonky controls. So I've gotten fairly used to them, but the controls hardly got any better. And the fact that I can run, or figured out that you could run, helped a little bit. But I don't know how much that really helps. Like you can kind of make this jump and make this jump, and I feel like that probably was an area where I didn't move it far enough. It feels like the enemies now drop considerably more health than they did at the beginning, or like 1 or 2 more extra pips. It still seems fairly obvious that there is no reason for these magnetic valves. Like, I can't magnetize them or anything. So, if I was supposed to turn a valve, I don't know why. Here you can hear the music also playing super loud again. Is there anything else more to say? Unfortunately for games like this, since they are just mediocre at best, you do run into the scenario where there is less to be said than you would imagine, simply because there's just less to be said in period. Like, I don't think I have any more game to play here, nor any more criticism to say. Like, can I recommend this game? Absolutely not. Would I recommend someone try to make a 3D platformer if they are a small indie style company and don't have major funding? No, absolutely not. I kind of wish you could play the whole game this way the first time, because you're missing out on all the annoying lines of dialogue. Was there anything more to that? Probably not. I probably did already collect on that thought. I probably already have collected like all the watches in this first level, and so it would be a matter of just rushing through this level now to get to the next level. These automatrons get used once and they're pretty terrible. And you can fairly see that you can just run through them. This elevator gets used once and it's fairly terrible. I think I probably collected all the collectibles here. So the real question, I suppose, to ask would be, can we get to this boss area, and do we have to fight the boss again, or are we now just in some kind of limited area? I mean, to me it seems like some of the puzzles up until this point were fine and already done. Let's see. Let's see. Wrong one. Mid-tier. So that gets everything working. But why did I solve that puzzle? Like, I don't think I needed to. Oh, because it needed to start all the gears moving. Which I guess that's the indication of what the green on the springs mean. Is that the gears are moving. Well, Kind of goes to show how unimportant that information is. If I didn't know that and still was completely capable of beating the level. There's all kinds of pipes in this level that feel like they could have been more areas for collectibles, but I don't think they really were. And all kinds of places where it seems like you could have fairly easily fallen down. I'm really just stretching for time here to make a decent length episode, but I suppose it is slightly worthwhile to try and see what it would look like. There we go. I wonder really if there was any real trick to that, or whether you could have just jumped down. We've got the platforming down fairly easily now, so you don't have to wait for jumps to particularly line up. Jump here, checkpoint yourself again. I think it's probably fairly accurate or reasonable to compare this to something like the platforming elements in a Lego game, in the sense that even though that is Warner Brothers like subsidiary making the Lego games, and thus they're getting way more funding than I guess I probably could have put a shadow on that character too. But even a bad Warner Brothers TT Traveler's Tales game would be chock full of levels and content. It wouldn't just be 3 big areas. So you have to go in here and then down this way, and then you have to do that whole thing all over again, which that was a nightmare. So like that seems to tell me we really never use the magnetic abilities anywhere to a level where they should have been used. Like it's all the concepts in this game are ridiculously underappreciated, and so there's like no reason to have these gameplay mechanics in the first place. You could have easily just had jumping, and maybe you put in some like Mario jumping. The attack button works fairly well. Controlling these with the D-pad works pretty terribly, and so I almost never use it. This is the fact that so much of the problems with this game are actually front-loaded is just bad producing also. Like, I hate to tell video game developers that they should strive to avoid people using the 2 hours, no question asked, refund policy on Steam. this is definitely also a game that in the first 2 hours, if you had any care for your money whatsoever, you would almost certainly want to refund it. I'm really surprised this is even mixed reviewed, because that really goes to show you just how bad a game can be and not get a negative review. Like, as long as it's not a scam, as long as it's not something that is just completely objectionable in the eyes of most video game players, people are willing to give it at least a few marks. Perhaps that is in part because kids themselves are closer to being graded and would prefer if teachers, for instance, gave more of a benefit of a doubt on some of their grading. Yeah, I don't think that's right. 1, 2, and we need just the top one, and we need just the bottom one. Which one moves the bottom one? 1, 2. Alright, well then we need the middle one and the top one probably. Alright, just the top one now. So we're running out of time. You know what I didn't see while running through this the second time is any keys. So this might be one of those scenarios where you're in a little bit more of a bad position than you would think. Okay. Alright. There we go. See, even if you're running here, unless you had infinite keys, you're then going to have to find enough of these. Enough of the energy pellets to get you down, and you don't have enough of them, so if checkpoint 2 of 50 at best. I'd kind of like to see what the boss fight looks like on the second attempt, since the game is so glitchy. There might very well be a case here that the boss fight makes a lot more sense. Alright. See if I got on that gear. I don't think that gets me anywhere. And if I got over to that platform, I don't know if that gets me anywhere either. Is there anything over on that gear? I don't think I can make that jump. Yeah. This, I think, just takes you back up. Yeah, so that was pointless. Just, I guess, in case you felt the need to run around and try and find collectibles, but honestly you can't play that way because every second the time is just ticking down. You could easily have gotten rid of the thing on his back, which plays no role at all. Like, there's not even a point where the bad guys manage to break it or disturb it in any way. See if that gets us back to 50, because I was nearly to that third group. See, and then you get this papyrus, and there should be just another papyrus that would have unlocked in this first level, and we don't ever see it. And here you have just another animation.
This is horrendous. You're
that
very creative.
It's so ugly.
By saying very creative, I actually meant very dumb. Just to clarify.
What is this thing?
And see how there's like no consistency around the music? That you touch that music record and then it kind of doesn't explain why there's music records later, or what the music records later do.
How could you even think about building such a deformed monstrosity?
They also don't they don't really explain why he doesn't follow through with that punch when he clearly is trying to kill you in every other scenario. Alright. So
Watch
now
out for the steam watchmaker. Don't get burnt.
nope, this still feels pretty terribly designed.
You know this place, watchmaker. You built it.
Terribly designed now with like no keys.
It's clumsy. You can beat that thing. Come on.
Like,
The ruined saboteur awaits us.
You're still not able to really take on the guy.
Careful with the eyes.
And at 50, you still are in a bad position
Hit
as far
harder.
as having life. And he's not summoning any enemies
Destroy it. You can do it.
or giving you any opportunities to gain life back. And see, I don't know if maybe the game
It's not smart.
has changed his pattern, or if the game just takes
Come on. The
gives you a
ruined
lot of
saboteur awaits
damage.
us.
Maybe you need to run the other direction. Like,
Don't
finally.
get burnt.
Yeah, you finally get it, and then you die. Alright, well, that's as much as we needed to see, and we've gone long enough here. Almost certainly the good ending is that you go back in time and you abandon the clock tower, and that erases the possibility of there being any kind of sequel. Also, the bad ending kind of erases any possibility of a sequel. Yeah, I don't think that there's anything else I want to see other than maybe languages. Was this some kind of weird Russian game? No, I doubt there's any credible evidence to that. I imagine this is simply a game where they tried to translate everything into the European and North American languages. That would be my guess, and I would somewhat assume that this is either Western Europe or North America based company. Yeah. Well, at the core of it, I'm glad to be done with the Watchmaker, because this game definitely did not motivate me to continue playing. There were many days here where I really didn't want to do anything with it, and that certainly put me behind schedule. And I guess that's about the worst criticism I can make for a video game critic, is that I just felt like I was wasting my time. You've heard all my other criticisms as far as the game itself, and just poor budgeting, poor directing, poor concepts. There could have been a decent 3D platformer here, certainly, with enough budget and time, but I don't think the people in charge of making this game would have ever accomplished that, and clearly they didn't in this instance. That's going to be it for this series. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.